The cabinet by President William Ruto has left the sports ministry without a substantive minister at a time the sports docket is bustling with activities. From Team Kenya's preparation for the Paris Olympics that has hit fever pitch to the long-awaited FKF elections, as well as preparations for the 2027 Africa Cup of Nations, which Kenya will jointly host alongside Tanzania and Uganda. The incoming sports CS has the in tray full. However, the sports docket has turned out to be a jinxed ministry, with 8 individuals leading the docket in the last 12 years, averaging just 17 months in office for each, with some of the past holders running into controversies, let alone questions on their qualification to hold the docket. But amidst it all, the million-dollar question remains: who gonna be the next pick in the wake of the Gen Z-inspired cabinet purge? Steve Shitera begins our broadcast with this report.
Since the ouster of the KANU government in 2002, after close to a 40-year rule, and the subsequent rise of the late former President Mwai Kibaki to power through the NARC coalition government, the sports ministry has had a high turnover of 8 ministers who have led the docket, but with little or no success. From former Mvita MP Najib Balala, who took over the reins of the ministry in 2002, but left the hot seat a year later, many have occupied the plum seat, pledging to bring order which has remained elusive. They include Ochilo Ayako, Maina Kamanda, Professor Helen Sambili, Dr. Paul Otuoma, Ababu Namwamba, Dr. Hassan Wario, Ambassador Dr. Amina Mohamed, and recently Ababu Namwamba. Under the leadership of these 8 ministers, some of them professors, Kenya has experienced a turbulent sports journey. In June 2004, for instance, FIFA suspended the Kenya Football Federation from all football activities for 3 months due to alleged government interference. The country entered into FIFA's bad books again in 2006, this time landing an indefinite suspension when the then sports minister Maina Kamanda dissolved the Kenya Football Federation. In 2016, the Ministry of Sports under the former sports minister Hassan Wario was in the spotlight again for all the wrong reasons over the Rio 2016 Olympic scandal.
The court will pass out and mete out the sentence as follows.
Wario was accused alongside others of abuse of office, leading to his conviction on September 16, 2021. Ababu Namwamba, who was recently booted out of the ministry,
Dr. William Samuel
is however not a guest on Matter Sports. He briefly led the docket from September 2012 through to 2013 after inheriting the reins from his Busia neighbor, Dr. Paul Otuoma, now the Busia County Governor.
We have made the transformative decision.
Namwamba's legacy perhaps remains the enactment of the Sports Act 2013, a law he helped shepherd when he was at the helm of the ministry in his first stint. The Sports Act brought some semblance of order, though more than 10 years down the line, which coincided with his return to the hot seat, most federations are yet to fully comply with the law.
Now, Mr. President, as GNZs, we are telling you, take Mwendwa out of that docket. Mwendwa, you are a gatekeeper. You are a gatekeeper to the sportmen, and you are strangling sports. You should go. In fact, we are occupying that space.
Prior to his sacking last week by President William Ruto, following deadly protests led by the Gen Zs, Ababu Namwamba had become a wanted man, with Kenyans piling pressure on him to make public the list of all who are set to travel to Paris for the Summer Olympic Games on taxpayers' money. And as Kenyans wait with bated breath for the next sports cabinet secretary, what kind of a leader do they expect to take stewardship of the sports ministry going forward?
Tunataka achague CS mwenye anaelewa sports ni nini kwanza. Anaelewa since anaweza support vijana from the grassroots wakipanda wakienda juu.
Looking at the sports currently, it's not what we expect as sportsmen and women. Ababu Namwamba started well when he came in, but in between he got lost.
In the face of it all, one thing is certain. Namwamba's successor has an overflowing in tray that needs urgent attention. And the tasks at hand include a proper management of Team Kenya at the Paris Olympics, preparations of the junior starlets for the FIFA Women's Under-17 World Cup in Dominican Republic, to midwife the long overdue FKF elections, construction of stadia in time for the 2027 AFCON, and oversee the preparation of Harambee Stars for the 2025 AFCON in Morocco and 2026 World Cup in the Americas. The success or failure of it will depend on the goodwill of one man, President William Ruto, the man under the prying eyes of the public, who is to pick a man or woman with impeccable management skills to lead the long-suffering ministry. As to whether this will be attained, only time will tell. Steve Shitera, Sporty Monday, Nairobi.
Beautiful analytical piece there by Steve Shitera, and of course that will form the basis of our quick fire segment. And today we have in the house Mr. Francis Mutuku, the NOC Kenya Secretary General, and of course he's joined by historian, author and sports commentator Bethwell Oduo. That's coming up shortly in our quick fire segment. But first things first, Isia, I begin with you. You've seen that story by Steve Shitera giving us the basis of our discussion. The sports ministry, President Ruto has sent the entire cabinet packing, including Ababu Namwamba. From where you sit, what would you want to see, even as he prepares to name his new cabinet?
First, I need to say, Swida, that some decisions are informed by the mood of a nation, and indeed the mood of the country. There was maybe very limited options for the president, and took the steps that he took. That does not necessarily mean, for example, all was not well with the sports ministry. So hiyo tunasema mgala muwe na haki umpe. If I comparatively look at the immediate former CS sports, Ababu Namwamba, and I consider the work done by Amina Mohammed before the coming of Ababu, I can't compare the two. Ababu has done far much better. At least he showed us some understanding of sport. He didn't need a lot of brief when it came to matter sport for him to, get even to the very basics. That's number one. Number two is to say that I think we have seen a lot of money now being pumped into sports. And I think even for you to convince the president or the government that you need to invest more money, into sports, it calls for that understanding of what you are doing. And therefore, I want to say that Ababu has done fairly well in the sports ministry. Of course, there was a big room for improvement. Nonetheless, the question is, the person who is coming, what are they able to do? I have said always that Kenya always has very good plans when it comes to matter sports and everything else, by the way. The issue has always been implementation. So that person who should be picked is a person who has that understanding of sports, probably a person who has done sports management, or maybe even has been an athlete before, a person who feels the pinch of an athlete when they are not at the center of it all. But I also need to say, it does not necessarily mean that being an athlete makes you a good sports manager. There should be a lot of balance in it.
And Shitera, you were shaking your head as Isia was talking.
Yeah.
And there has been a question of, do we bring in a former athlete or a sportsman?
No.
Do we need a good manager, so to speak? How do we proceed? Because question has been, some of these people being brought in do not understand sport. Some of them probably do not have the academic acumen. But we've seen this ministry has been led by professors, Professor Helen Sampili. We had Dr. Tuoma, who is PhD, and many others. From where you sit, what do we need going forward?
We need a manager, as you rightly put it, because if you go by going by people who have done the sports, I'll give you an example of Zambia. When they thought Kalusha Bwalia will raise their standards. He failed. Look at what is happening in Cameroon under Samuel Eto'o. So in my view, if you asked me, and I will share the sentiment.
But Zambia won the AFCON when Kalusha gave him his...
those are very isolated examples, by the way.
The president of the federation.
He was the president of the federation, but you see, he was riding on what was already built. Now, when he started building his reign, it's when Zambia went down. You know? So just check the statistics. He came in at that time.
So for Kenya, what do you want to see?
In Kenya, what I want to see, I think Ababu Namwamba is a young person. He has done pretty well, and I think if I was to recommend, I would recommend him back. But again, I will share the sentiments shared by Obunga, team manager, that he started well, but towards the end, Ababu Namwamba has really missed so many marks. Look at what he promised us, that Buhungu Stadium will host CHAN. As we speak, Buhungu Stadium is dead. No activity going on there. As we speak, Kenya has no stadia to host any of the qualifiers because CAF was in the country, I think, over the weekend. And they flagged Nyayo Stadium again. Why? I saw Nyayo Stadium, the floodlights, when they were put on, only 3 lights could come on. So I think that does not need science to put up a floodlight. And I believe we failed because of the floodlight. So in my view, Ababu is a good person. He started well, but kuna wimbo ya jamaa fulani alikuwa anaimba anasema tulianza na roho lakini tunamalizia na mwili.
Real quick, Shitera. In the 20 months he's been at the sport ministry.
Yes.
How do you grade him?
I will give him a C+.
A C+.
Yeah, okay. a grade good enough to proceed to university.
Before you proceed to Zita very quickly, let me say this. You see, those examples that Shitera has given here of maybe some sportsmen and women who have failed before in management, they are isolated cases. It doesn't mean that exclusively there are no people who have done, who have been athletes before and they cannot run, they cannot manage. What we are saying is that, you see, the problem has always been that most of these appointments have been done with some political mind in them. But if the idea was a person who can give us the best, I'm sure that we have many athletes who have done it before and they have those skills of management. And they're running federations, some of them, and they're doing
a former athlete, an athlete managing sports?
I will even
Absolutely.
I will even follow it up. Great managers in the world of football are not great players before.
Okay, Zita?
Just to add on it, I think Isia or Shitera, the one said that this is the second time actually Ababu coming up for the sport ministry, which means in the beginning he knew what is happening in the sport ministry. He made some laws that changed something in the sport ministry, whereby if he wanted to perform, he will have performed even now more than even the C+ that Shitera has given him. So something else is that, of course, for me, I would love the president to separate between politics and the CSs, because everyone who comes as a CS and is a politician, they have their own interest, you know, because at the end of it, Ababu is still very young. He will go back to the ballot and he wants to be a minister. He wants to be an MP. So we should separate the ministry, the CSS ministries with what? With politics. Something else that I know that is happening, I don't know how the Talanta Hela Stadium is doing. I don't know how even Nyayo Stadium now, because actually it was there. You know, CAF...
We have an update today at Kasarani.
CAF regulations and FIFA regulations are very different. If it will be World Cup to Nambiwa, you can't play in Nyayo Stadium, we will understand because they have higher regulations. But CAF, police are going to play outside Kenya. Gor Mahia are going to play outside Kenya. But
the ladies.
Yeah, the ladies are going to play outside Kenya.
Absolutely. In fact, I challenge you, go to the sports ministry website. Yeah. It's not working.
Google, it's not working. It's down.
Absolutely, lots of issues.
As I finish, I just want someone, as you said, a manager who understands everything, but not a politician who will come with their own interest.
Quite a heated debate from the panelists on, of course, just the tenure of Ababu Namwamba Sports CS. And of course, today we are asking you, who or what should the president consider in picking the next sports cabinet secretary? We want to hear from you. 22422 SMS lines, and of course we are also on social media. You can X us at ZNTV Kenya at Isaac Swila. We'll be sampling your feedback during and at the tail end of this program. Now let's go to part 2 of studio, where Wycliffe Orandi has interesting data regarding the leadership at the sports ministry. Wycliffe?
Well, good morning to you. I have here a scorecard of some of the, not some, but all of the ministers who have been, who have served in the sports docket. That is from 2002, when the former late President Mwai Kibaki took over as President of the Republic of Kenya. We have 8 ministers in total who have been at the helm, as this docket has a high turnover. We'll start with the first minister who took over the docket immediately after President Mwai Kibaki was sworn in as the president. That is in 2003. We wish to correct this. Najib Balala, that is, he started serving as a sports minister in 2003 to 2004, not in 2002 to 2003. This is a man who has been has had his life prior to becoming a public figure in the tourism industry, and of course also served in some parastatals in the tourism circles in the government before he was thrust himself into the limelight in public life, that is in the cabinet, becoming the first sports minister under President Mwai Kibaki. That is in 2003 to 2004, served for about 1 year and 5 months. Before now, this guy took over. It's called Ochilo Ayako. He's a lawyer by profession. He took over from Najib Balala in 2004, also served for almost a year to 2005. He's an advocate of the High Court. Then immediately after that, we have one Maina Kamanda. He took over from 2005 to 2007. This guy has a degree in business administration, and what he can be known for as far as his reign in the sports ministry is concerned is that he was accused in 2008 of acting in excess of his power when he tried to dissolve the Kenya Football Federation, KFF. At that time, the High Court came and overturned that, saying that he overstepped his mandate. He had no right to do that. That is one of the highlights that came out negatively from his reign in 2008. That is immediately after. Not during his reign, but immediately after his reign in 2008. Then we have, after that, came Professor Helen Sambili, the first woman to take over that docket from the turn of the century. That is in 2008 to 2010. And this is in 2009, there were calls for his sacking. That was when politics was really permeating into the running of the cabinet, when ODM party leaders were trying to call for his sacking, calling his two assistant, or rather deputies, that is Kabando and Ravinya Ndeti, as disrespectful and jealous, who were also part of the ODM brigade, calling for her resignation. That is what characterized her reign as the sports minister. Then you have from 2010 to September 2012, a period of about 2 years, we have Dr. Paul Otuoma, followed by now Ababu Namwamba, whose first stint as the sports ministry was in 2012 to 2013. He is also a lawyer by profession, and we'll get to look much deeper into Ababu Namwamba. After Ababu Namwamba came the second woman to hold that docket. Rather, before that, we have Hassan Wario, who from 2013 to 2018, then succeeded by Ambassador Amina Mohamed, that is from 2019 to 2022. Amina is known to have led the country into the ban by FIFA by interfering into the running of the Football Kenya Federation affairs. Then next we have Ababu Namwamba came back for a second stint under President William Ruto from 2012 to July 2024. And this is a man that we are getting to look into next. But who is next? That is the big question that we're tackling today. So from there, I'll throw it back to Swila for a moment, then we'll come back to looking into who this man is. Or before we go to Swila, actually, let's look at who Ababu Namwamba is. This is a person who's known as who actually has some failures and some successes as the minister is the immediate former Youth Affairs, Sports and the Arts Minister currently. So we'll take a look at some of his successes and some of his downfalls. And all right, looking at that, we have Ababu Namwamba. Let's look at some of his successes. He is known to have enacted the Sports Act 2013, which led to the establishment of the Sports Tribunal, Dispute Tribunal, Office of the Sports Registrar, Sports Kenya, Kenya Academy of Sports as well. Some of the other successes include lifting of the FIFA ban on Kenyan football. Started the tenure by making a phone call. Remember, the first day he took office, he started by making phone calls to FIFA officials and eventually led to the FIFA lifting the ban on Kenya. And the other success that he's known for is Kenya won the bid to host the 2027 AFCON. He led Kenya into winning that bid that will be co-hosted by Uganda and Tanzania. And also the Kenya beat Senegal, Zambia, Botswana and joint Nigeria-Benin ticket in those elections and won that particular bid. Another success is known to have initiated the awarding of the scheme for record-breaking athletes. Remember, the late Eliud Kiptum was awarded 5 million shillings posthumously for breaking Eliud Kipchoge's marathon record. And also, we've seen Faith Kipyegon being awarded. We've seen Omanyala being awarded as well. That is under our record-breaking award scheme started by Ababu Namwamba. He's also known to have established ties with Nastic Soccer Academy in Spain. This is a deal between the Kenya Academy of Sports and the Nastic Soccer that was signed in April by Ababu Namwamba, and this is a program that promises soccer talents to win scholarships and nurture their talents in Spain, and we've seen a couple of Kenyans going there and getting sponsorships to just nurture their talent. Now, some of the failures include non-compliance of the Sports Act 2013. Remember, he was credited for enacting the Sports Act, but he's also credited, not really credited, but he's not to follow up on the enactment of the Sports Act 2013. This is after federations failed to honor orders and timelines issued by that by mainly the Dispute Tribunal. And also another failure include there is no clear status on FKF elections. Remember, the High Court suspended the FKF AGM and therefore putting the anticipated FKF elections on ice, and Ababu has not been able to actually ensure that the elections are conducted. Another failure include deplorable state of the stadia, and we've seen that AFCON 2027 is around the corner, and still we don't have CAF-approved stadia at the moment, and that was under his reign, and we'll see what the next Sports Cabinet Secretary will do. And the last failure that we can attribute to him is failure to tackle comprehensively the doping menace. We've seen a couple of Kenyans also on the doping list, notable names banned from athletics mostly due to doping. That's under the reign of the Sports Cabinet Secretary Ababu Namwamba. Back to you, Srila.
Thank you, Wycliffe. Breaking